Good evening. This is, I feel like I'm giving a public hearing speech, and I've given many of them over the past 34 years of being involved in this community. And it's abundantly clear from looking at the Heritage Dunbar Neighborhood Plan, a document that I have fought for over 2 decades for, that it is a concoction of a city planner's plan to gentrify our community. You guys have seen reaction videos on YouTube where someone watches a music video for the first time and they give you their reaction. Well, I'm going to do that for you tonight with the city planners documents that are hitting the Planning and Zoning Commission on Tuesday. I'm going to start off with showing you how to navigate to the documents that I'll be looking for. And in this video, we're going to do a breakdown of this document, which is a complete bifurcation, debauchery of everything the neighbors have been asking for. In fact, it is now a weapon to use against the residents of Dunbar and the residents of the Heritage neighborhood. And it's going to be used to gentrify and develop our neighborhoods. What will happen is property taxes will go higher than they already are, and people will lose their homes, and it will be a direct result of this plan because it will open up the floodgates, no pun intended, for developers to take over the neighborhood. I find the composition very questionable of the steering committee and the weight of the steering committee on this document. In fact, those of us who were on the comprehensive plan committee had very little input. Our input was ignored. In fact, some of that input was we need to have the neighborhood plans implemented before the downtown plan. And when we go through this breakdown, we will look and see if there's an interfacing of the downtown plan and the threats of downtown development, which many of us believe are a direct threat to the African American community of Dunbar and those working class in the heritage neighborhoods. Moreover, well, let's just go ahead and just start taking a look at what we got going on here. So let me find the share screen function. Here we go. And I'm going to show you how to navigate to this. So if you go to the home page of the city website, and you scroll all, this is the way I do it. I go to interactive agendas. This is so stupid, this little thing they have here, this whatever it is. Well, it's ironic because it's supposed to be an endangered species, and city staff have done everything they can to threaten endangered species with their road projects and their developments. You can see here the upcoming meeting, and you can click on here for drop-down menus for whether it's the city council or the planning and zoning. I'm clicking on the planning and zoning here, and I'm clicking on, you can either click on the agenda or what I do to get to the packet, which is all the supporting information for the agenda. Here is where it is. The last item is a public hearing for the Dunbar neighborhood plan. You can click on that, and here are your attachments. There's the presentation, and there's the final draft. I'm going to go over in this first video the actual final draft, and there will probably be a couple of these videos. I'm going to give you my initial reaction, and then I've got some initial notes somewhere else that I'll use when I do that second dissection of this document, which is expensive, and I think there should be another URL link here for the whole shebang drive out price. Let's see if we can open it up. No, it's going to make me open it up on my desktop. So let me pause for a second here and open this up, and then I'll share screen again. Let me just, it's downloading. I've already downloaded it. Okay, so let me open this up, and we can start from the top. Okay, let me share screen. Here we go. So let's start out here. We've got the area plan. This is something, this gentleman has made a lot of money in a time where we have individuals who are going to the food bank at record numbers, literally circling a block. And there's been no fiscal accountability. And I hold the city council and the mayor directly responsible for not firing this individual. And it looks to a lot of us like he took pre-made documents, cooked them up and threw them in here. Now, this is historic, and then we've got the Dunbar. So if we start off here, this is very questionable to me. We've got a planning and zoning commissioner who's always on the comprehensive plan. This individual has worked very closely, and her ideology is very clear in the comprehensive steering plan committees as being very pro new urbanism and not a historical preservationist. I don't know who these people are. I'm going to look them up and find out. I know this individual is a realtor who is not a historical preservationist. God rest Dr. Holt's. You know, Dr. Holt and I, we were there when Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael came to Texas. Well, it was Southwest Texas State back in the day, and I got to hang out with Stokely Carmichael for like 45 minutes. We held up the Black Watch meeting. It was epic. Linda Huff used to work for the city. Ryan Patrick Perkins is a historical preservationist. I don't know who this is. Amy, I love you, girl, but you work for the city. And I believe he is a realtor or a developer. So in the cast of characters here, you have very few true historical preservationists. And I'm wondering, and we're going to look up the addresses of where these people reside and if they are true residents of Dunbar. Then here's the guy who ran off with all the dough, this guy. So God rest your soul, Dr. Holt. So now let's take a look at the plan. The plan overview. The city of San Marcos is comprised of many unique neighborhoods in which the community desires to celebrate and protect. Well, that's exactly what this document is designed to do. But the way it's rendered out, it's the complete opposite. It's opening the door for development and gentrification and potential flooding, not to mention destruction of historical structures. Yes, we all know we've seen rapid growth, and unfortunately, we're paying the high price for that. You know, when you own a small business, you want to increase your workforce, you want to increase your equipment, and you want to increase the bottom line, right? Well, the city runs it like a bottom line. And what they've done is they've focused more on increasing staff and more equipment to the detriment of the struggling taxpayers in our community. While growth and change are inevitable, how the city grows should be properly managed. Exactly. And it's not necessarily, we could put lots of protective measures in here. The purpose of this plan is to describe the existing conditions, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so now let's go through 7 historic areas, environmental features. Okay, and now this is very important. It's located in the Edward Aquifer Transition Zone and limestone overlays the Edward, which, and there is also, I actually live on the largest fault line, my neighborhood, which was very problematic because they kept doing all this blacktop overlay grading. They made a sidewalk, they busted out the sidewalk, they put another sidewalk in, then they did some more tearing up of the road to build a speed bump, which is now causing significant damage to people's cars, and it's very unsafe. So they talk here about some data. I think this is very problematic here. The median income is approximately $71,000. That is a flat out lie. There may be a couple of individuals who are involved in politics who make a lot of money, but there are a lot of working poor who live in the heritage area, but whose businesses or whose professional work has been impacted by the economy. And then you have the working poor that live in Dunbar. The median income, the area's median household income is approximately $71,000, significantly above the citywide income. And I made a comment on that. So they've taken the high rollers that live in the area, and they should have a distribution. They should show us how many people make $500,000 a year or more. And then those who are living on $23,000 a year, because many of those Dunbar residents don't even have a phone. They're so poor. So this is a slap in the face. this piece of data here. The area's median household value is, well, it keeps going up because we have a city manager and we have a mayor and a city council who can't keep the budget under control. And their only goal is their tentacles for annexation, allowing high rises, which allegedly were going to help us with the tax base, which have done nothing but raise the property rates of the working poor. And this, once again, is a bold face. We need to have the income distribution, some sort of bar graph, so we can see who the high rollers are and who the people who are struggling are. These factors indicate that neighborhoods are among the most stable neighborhoods. This is also untrue. People are having to sell their homes right now because of the high property tax. This is a very subjective statement. They're located in the heart of San Marcos, south of downtown. See, this is why this document should have been implemented before the downtown plan, because both of these neighborhoods are under threat from university growth and expansion of buildings, and also developers downtown. And let's see how much of that is addressed in this document. Many residents have the opportunity to walk or bike to these desirable destinations. The neighborhoods have access to Purgatory Creek, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. So now let's take a look at some of the approaches. Topic plan recommendations. Now let's note what's in here and what's not in here. This plan describes key concepts and existing conditions for 7 plan topics. Okay, so they're giving us an overview. They're going to talk about how they're going to implement. So this is their kind of workflow. Alignment with the comprehensive plan. This is all a joke. Sustainable is a new urbanist term. And I don't see anything in here about historic preservation. And more importantly, sustainable is a club word which subsumes the actual purity of ecological preservation. Equitable, diverse, and inclusive. This is a code word that we want affordable housing so that we can gentrify those who are current owners who cannot afford their property taxes. And it's the favorite word of developers. Unique and complete. There's nothing in here about historic preservation. Support connected means that they want to use sidewalks and bus stops, which bring people into neighborhoods, which on my specific house and my neighbor, we have had 2 manhunts. Our quality of life has been impacted because of this alleged connectability. I've had a man high on drugs literally 100 feet away at that bus stop. And the only reason why that bus stop was built is because I kindly pointed out to city staff that there was no bus stops in my neighborhood for the sidewalk they wanted to put in on my block. And then the next, like 3 days later, they made a bus stop. And then in the meantime, they destroyed historical walls and thousands of dollars of limestone. So the city staff don't care about historical preservation. And we all know Allison Brake was the city planner on the Woods. Strategic and complementary. This is a code word that they want to control growth. And complementary is the code word that we're going to stick high rises and dense development near pre-existing homes. Sustainable and resilient. To me, sustainable should be in the environment. Resilient, I'm not sure what that means, but I'm not sure why any of this is in this column. There should be discussion about the history of Dunbar here. How does it address racial, social, health, and economic disparities? I am not sure why that is an important element for how we control development. These notions here, unless these notions are going to be used for affordable housing, which is Laura DuPont's favorite cause. And affordable housing, once again, is opening up the Pandora's box for developers to build dense housing to line their pockets, which destroys the integrity of a neighborhood, and worse off, it creates gentrification where people can't afford their property taxes. That's exactly why this verbiage is in here. If they truly cared about this, there would be some language in here about holding property taxes at some sort of affordable range, but that's not in here. What unintended consequences might each policy produce? How does it advance racial equity? I don't see anything in here about socioeconomic, and I'm not sure why that's in here. This is all virtue signaling, And it doesn't even belong, if you're going to throw it in here, it doesn't even belong in this category. Quite frankly, it belongs here. Create opportunity, choice, and sense of belonging. See, now you're double dipping. You've got it here and you've got it here. I don't see anything about his. Do you see anything about historical preservation here? Because these are historic structures. Improve access to employment essential goods. That means they want to put more bus stops and sidewalks. And this is all very interesting. If you ask a kid, do you want a Tootsie Roll, do you want a lollipop or a Mars bar? And you keep asking them that, and you don't say, by the way, you're going to get juvenile diabetes if I give this to you to every day. When we go through later the questions they ask, they're basically giving them juvenile diabetes. It's the questions that they ask. If you ask people, do you want anemones? But if you don't say, hey, or whatever the word is, a phenomena, boo doo doo doo. That's pretty much what this is, a Muppet show. If you ask people, hey, do you want to protect your neighborhood from gentrification? That question's not in here. This is all a wish list, so they can say, we're going to bring in developers and we need to have connectability. That's what is going on here. Improve access to employment, okay. And protect the unique character of existing neighborhoods and places. There's no word here that says historic preservation or protect historically significant African American structures. Ensure that existing new development throughout the community has sufficient infrastructure. This is a code word that they want to expand city staff and have more CIP projects. And they want to have more sidewalks, because that's exactly what they're going to do. And infrastructure should not even be in here. This should all be focused on the DNA of the neighborhood, not increasing infrastructure to bring in more developments. Consider the area plan, once again, age and condition. Well, you know, we've got a new bridge that's not even a decade old right around the corner from me on Hunter Road, and city staff know that that bridge does not drain. So how about out of the gate, you make a bridge? And by the way, there were Native American artifacts there. So you don't see anything in this conversation, because my whole area where I live is all Native American artifacts. You don't see anything in here about protecting Native American culture and what the impact on these projects would be on African American community, because we all know that Dunbar will flood as a result of the handiwork of their smart code of those high rises by Dunbar, and none of that is addressed in this document. Protect residents from flooding. Ensure that new development, we don't want any new development. None of this should be in here. This is supposed to be the DNA for our neighborhood and how we want to protect the DNA of that neighborhood, the look and feel as it is, not to open up a set of rubrics for new development. And that's why I take issue on the individuals that are appointed to that board. And if you will note later, because I kind of scrolled through here and I said, no, we're going to do a reaction video and go through this. They were not historical preservationists, and I'm wondering how many of those individuals have ever even spoken at a public hearing defending these specific neighborhoods. A mix of current land uses, environmental climate. Is that smart growth, a new urbanism, so that you can bring in dense development and say we want a walkable city, a 6-minute city or a 2-minute city, the same concept that is creating riots in the streets in Europe? That seems like what that is to me. And constraints on available land in each recommendation. Let's see what they say. By the way, we've got a church in this neighborhood that has a problem, and they can't get the city to help them with that. In that same African American neighborhood, discusses history, arts, and culture, getting around. Notice this is their connectability, streetscapes, this is their connectability. All housing, affordable housing. See, all of this should be focused on preserving the integrity of the buildings in these little historic neighborhood blocks. What they're trying to do is create a boardwalk mentality of new urbanism on small little blocks, just like they've done to Victory Gardens with those big sidewalks. That neighborhood should have never had those sidewalks. Local history can include major events and institutions as well as notable people in the area. Yeah, it also includes people's houses. The neighborhood may enjoy the oldest structures in San Marcos with portion of the plan platted by the 1860s. Preserving this history involves keeping older properties in good condition and placing signage in other areas, visual indicators of historical events. Yeah, well, why don't we do historical designation of trees as well and historical markers and make sure there's a historical preservation buffer around. See, this is the problem, is that Amanda and Andrea and Allison and the city management team know. They knew about those 7-foot high rises over there up on the hill where there are historic structures. And ironically, that little parcel of land, the one that's kind of by the elms right there, that huge, those high rises that, were demolished. And now they want to put a big parking garage, and I think like 3 or 4, 7 stories. They knew about those slices of land. And ironically, those slices of land were gerrymandered, so there's no neighborhood plan. So my neighborhood, which is the historic area, as well as Dunbar, we're under threat from these high rises, right? And so if you created some sort of buffer for these neighborhoods, that would be an area of protection. Markers don't mean anything if you don't get a buffer. And we've been asking for this for some time. In fact, I'm looking forward to seeing if the historical resources survey is even mentioned in this document. Community outreach efforts from the area plan process yield many comments. Yes, and what's really interesting is that city staff refuse to take the comments of citizens who have been speaking at public hearings for years, concerned about this Lindsay Hills with the old Lamar School, or the commissioners on the comprehensive plan steering committee, or the documents, the 2 times that those of us who spent our Friday nights going over this rough draft of this, they refuse to post the sticky notes from the major comprehensive plan proper. Every time you hear Andrea or Allison or Amanda talk about how much input they have, you go, you're lying. Number of sticky notes doesn't mean anything because we don't have the addresses of who those people are, if they have been involved, if they're property tax owners. These could be interns of a developer showing up and putting in little new urbanist ideas. And moreover, the comments that they're referencing here are very specific questions that these new urbanist city planners have crafted. Suggestions for sharing the community's history, especially its African-American history, included arts, murals, tours. Yeah, you don't say, but I don't see anything here about protecting those structures or helping these African-American families renovate their homes. This all takes a lot of money. That money could be helped to make sure those structures are safe, but the city wants those structures to be demolished so that they can put in, so their developer homies can put in mixed different types of housing. We're going to get to that in a minute. People watching, yeah, this is all just feel-good rhetoric. There's no meat in here about stopping gentrification. Cultural landscapes and institutions. So they're talking about, yes, we all know about that. Let's go to the next one. Recommendation. Explore alternative designative options, which would be zoning overlays to consider adaptive reuse and contextually sensitive new developments. See, this plan is supposed to protect the current residents, not open up the Pandora's box for new buildings. And so basically what they've done is they're throwing the African Americans and those who, and there are a lot of Hispanics who live on my block and African Americans in this area, under the bus. This is basically a dream document for a developer with high demand new development, especially new housing. The city's role is to guide the development to fit. I don't trust a dang one of you up there, because Amanda and Andrea and Allison rubber stamp every development that comes across their desk. The last person I trust is the city's role to guide what is, because by virtue of this document, you're not even protecting the neighborhood. Establish proactive communication process. This is a joke, because you haven't even taken the input that we put in for this specific plan and the comprehensive plan. It's all lip service. And what's going to happen is you're going to get sued over this document because you refuse to listen to us, and we can prove it. Add commemorative markers. No, we want a buffer. We don't want a sign. We want something from you to protect us from this. We don't need that. We need a case study for our community, Jay Jenkins. All you did is copy and paste from your little database of case studies and slap it in here and charge us another $500. Action, equitable. See, if you really cared about equity, you would talk about gentrification instead. But this is a term that's in vogue and it's used by developers to justify affordable housing. Guide protection, preservation, great. Rehab and adaptive reuse of existing, very good. With an emphasis on minority communities, I find this racist. There are working class people in this neighborhood who are Caucasian like me, and I should have equal rights as anybody else, especially since I'm the only one showing up and speaking on behalf of Dunbar. This is very troubling. And you may find yourself in a lawsuit over that. Promote financial technical resources for maintaining historical age properties such as low contact, great. For maintenance, how about preservation and restoration? Okay, so now let's keep going here. City can use a variety, this is all public art, yada, 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 yada. This, I love this. I love this when it came up. But you know what? This is in a historic area. And I would love to have seen something this cool with some settlers, maybe the mill race. It's just, if you're going to have, I mean, I live, and maybe this is the city admitting that there's Native American artifacts in this area, but the irony is they put this right here and then they went in my yard and butchered my yard where the Native American artifacts are for a sidewalk. So if you're going to use this sort of symbology, then you should be, and by the way, a couple blocks down, they desecrated Native American artifacts for their Hunter Road project. So this is ironic. Another strategy, you see more public art. This is all when you ask the kids if they want a Tootsie Roll, a Mars bar, or a lollipop, and they're going to say, we want art, we want amenities, whatever the word is, phenomena, and we want walkability. But you're not asking them, are you concerned about gentrification? You're not asking them if they're concerned about getting flooded out like Dunbar is under threat right now for those high rises. You're not asking them if they're concerned about traffic and new developments. See, everybody's going down my block now because city planners put these reverse speed bumps on Hopkins, and we don't need speed bumps on Hopkins because on Hopkins, we have people going slow because there's so much traffic. See, so incorporate local history, wayfinding. Once again, we want a buffer, recognition program. Yeah, that'd be great before you butcher them all. But see, we want enhanced by public art. This is all just an art piece. It's all feel good. It's all a red herring. Now, more arts and culture, established apartments, yada, yada. Once again, Jay, we don't need your little pre-hashed copy and paste slap on there. This is all a slap in the face. Look at this. This is not San Marcos. There should have been a more robust deconstruction of our community. Urban trails and interpretive signage. Once again, here what they're trying to do now is they're trying to establish connectability, just like that boondoggle they did. And they put a sidewalk in the backyard of residents of Victory Gardens to connect the apartment complexes to the downtown. And meanwhile, a couple blocks over the other way, the little railroad crossing between Dunbar and Victory Gardens, it floods. There's water standing there for months. In fact, that should have been addressed here. This is all a shenanigan for them to have connectability. So the first words out of a developer's mouth is it's got a sidewalk. It's connectable. This is all trash right here, and it's a waste of this document. None of this should be in here. Getting around. See, once again, we're not talking about here protection of the current housing structures to some of the struggles of our neighbors. Now we're focusing again on new urbanism, bike lanes, crosswalks, and transportation methods. The city planners know the biggest joke in this community among the residents is there's never anybody on those buses. In fact, you could take the money that they spend, the boondoggle of the money that they spend on the bus program, and you can give everyone who actually needs a ride somewhere an Uber credit. So just give them a book or buy them a car for that matter. This is the biggest joke right here, the connectability. This is Texas. It's not Seattle, thank goodness. And city staff refuse to admit that the residents don't like these sidewalks. In fact, I have told them for years about how unsafe they didn't make a sidewalk from Bishop to Hopkins or to the TxDOT and the CIP program, the CIP to there, and they built it over an aquifer. They don't have, there's no connectability from this halfway sidewalk up on Bishop to the main road, but yet they stuck a sidewalk down my street here on Belvin. But so when they talk about this, they refuse to put sidewalks where we really need them, like downtown over there by the Quickie Picky, right? Or whatever they call it, that little Bobcat Quickie Picky. That's where we need the sidewalk. That's where we need the blacktop overlays. They have a zeal for going through pre-existing neighborhoods and putting sidewalks. Complete transportation networks. Once again, this is all new urbanism so that they can gentrify neighborhoods. So a developer can say it's got a sidewalk, it's got a bus stop, it's equitable. All along, they're taxing the residents who can't afford it already. They're expanding their infrastructure. They're overpaying their contractors, and then they're ruining the neighborhood integrity for this connectability. This is all trash. All of this is trash. More, see, okay, this is all focused on connectability. I don't see anything in here about protecting small historic neighborhoods, gateways. We told them in the comprehensive plan that we do not want gateways. We told them that, and they ignored us. It gave them reasons why. And there is a video, which I'm now gonna make live, and maybe I'll even splice in that footage, where there were hundreds of people over there by the Lamar School that city staff signed off on. And city staff have made me wait 10 days now from when they promised me they were gonna file an open records request. They didn't. In fact, I'm gonna stop here and pick up for the next one. Actually, let me finish my thought. And and there were 200 people with a pop-up food trailers, pop-up vendors, smoke machine, live electric band, amplified music, screaming vile lyrics in a neighborhood. And the whole street was lined with traffic. Then the next day, they had their hell ride of cyclists not allowing people to get, and the city staff signed off on both of these. And they have refused to fill out my open records request. I didn't get it on Monday, so I filled it out on Tuesday. It's now been 9 days. For context, for the hundreds of open records requests that I have filed, I usually get them in a day or two. So what is Greg Carr hiding that he signed off on? It's the second of both of those events. So this shows the incompetency and the callousness of Greg Carr and his crew, who are supposed to be protecting the peace and quiet of our community. All of this, we all know this. I've been telling them this for years, that we have a problem over there. But once again, we explained that we did not want a gateway, and what we said in the context of that conversation of the steering committee. And I am noting that the steering committee for this document was given an incredible amount of weight. The steering committee for the comprehensive master plan, because there was such a revolt among the neighborhood advocates, was given very low sway. In fact, they had a focus group, and in order to offset those of us who are vying to protect the working class here in our community. And so what we talked about is how drunks will walk into people's homes when you open up these gateways. We specifically told them we did not want that. And Andrea and Amanda And Allison ignored that input. So every time they say how much input they got, what they're doing here is opening the floodgates for traffic from the university and traffic from downtown to go into Dunbar and to go into the heritage neighborhoods with no buffer. That's exactly why this verbiage is in here. And that's why I demanded that we have this rolled out first before the actual downtown plan. And Amanda refused to listen to the committee. Streetscapes, here we go. All about, none of this is about the DNA of the historic homes. It's all about how can we create connectability to funnel the downtown into Dunbar and the university into the heritage plan and into the heritage neighborhoods and the downtown into the neighborhoods. More, here we go. It's all about their homies making more money for the CIP. And sometimes I wonder if there's graft going on behind these managers who work with these companies. I've always wondered, when installing existing sidewalks, take into consideration existing trees, especially heritage trees, to ensure their health root and systems are preserved. This can mean this is a result of 5 years of my work. And shame on you, Amanda and Allison and Andrea, and you too, Stephanie and Lori. The promise you made to me was to avoid these trees. This is the exact same promise they made to me, and nothing has changed here, except for you've put in the exact words that Bert Lambura said. The city now has a document from the arborist, a second-party arborist, that my tree is now under threat of dying because of exactly this. This document right here should say, avoid the tree. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the neighborhood commission and I'm going to ask for, what's it called when you get, like you ask, what's it called? I'll get back to you on this. This is the last straw right here, Amanda and Stephanie and Lori. You lied to me. You told me straight up that you were going to avoid those trees. And sure, I have footage of them covering up my Ring cameras because they did, and they sent police officers to anybody who took photos of what they did to me. This has not changed at all. This is a historic area, and the trees are older than this great nation. And here you want to throw out sidewalks. The sidewalk money needs to go by the university, but the city staff want to install sidewalks in our neighborhood so then they can say there's connectability. That's why the rest of this document all talks about that, so that Amanda and Andrea and Allison can go work for a developer just like Shannon Manley. That's what this is all about, because you never hear of city staff going to work to help neighborhoods now, do you? More BS, more BS, more BS, BS. Okay, here we go. Infrastructure, capital improvements plan. A bit, and you know why we have problems with flooding? Because the city staff allowed them to cement up the caves up at Capstone Cottages. This is from the state agency that I talked to. That's exactly why there's drainage problems. And Richard Reynosa, Allison Brake, whoever the city planner was on that one, they've never been fired or held accountable for that. All they've done is created more work for themselves. But you don't see anything in here about Dunbar now, do you? An African American neighborhood that is under threat of being flooded because of those high rises. And you don't see anything in here about the boundaries between Dunbar and Victory Gardens, where that water stands all summer brewing mosquitoes. Do you realize 30 years ago, city staff told me when I was a young kid living over on Knox Street, complaining because kids were swimming in that dirty water, worried about their health. Kids I would babysit for free, right? I was working with these gang kids, sweet kids, and working with their moms. That the Corps of Engineers was going to come out and fix that. Now I'm in my 50s and it's still there. None of that. Is any of it talked about? No, Purgatory Creek, holistic approach. No, this is what you call creating a retention pond behind the Lattes family. That's what that is. Flooding out a Hispanic family and not even bringing them to the seat of the table. That's what that is. That is, does that create your rubric of races of making sure you have racial equity? No, it doesn't. Nor does it create your rubric of racial equity for the Dunbar residents who are under threat of flooding. It's all lip service so they can bring in affordable housing, and that's precisely why Laura DuPont is on that committee. Purgatory Creek, yeah, but you've got a bridge that doesn't drain. Yeah, you don't even have an emergency communication plan. In fact, you don't even have an evacuation plan for the residents of Dunbar if there's another train derailment. That's something you should have in here. Officer Merit call. Oh, here we go. And you know what? You can thank LMC for that because I've only given about 15 speeches about it. To ensure a plan in place to respond to a hazard caused by a railroad crash or derailment. And you know what, Amanda? You're welcome. Explore the use of low impact permeable pavement. No, this stuff actually kills trees. Waivers, proper add sustainability features on their property. How about those of us like me who have 15 heritage live oaks whose water bill goes up $200 because I'm watering them over the summer? How about you give my trees a historic designation and look at my water bill in the winter when it's raining and compare that to the summer when I'm out there hand watering my hose, and then pay me for the time which I'm doing that? How about that? Housing. Essential part, over 9% of the planned current resident amount rent mortgage. The cost of how is the largest portion. Well, no, duh, guys, because you guys like to create an $88,000 plan to reorganize and take a look at your job descriptions so you could expand. You don't even have city workers caring for the city cemetery. And then you have a city manager who gives herself a $10,000 raise because of a study, but I don't know if that's, she's comparing herself to San Antonio and Austin city managers. There's no transparency for me to compare that to. And then the rest of us aren't getting a raise, but you're giving your city staffers raises. And then you're wasting my time every time you come out with a draft for this, putting in comments and you rip it up and throw it in the trash. So yeah, we know that, but there's no discussion. It assumes any new housing will be constructed by private property owners, any new housing, zoning regulations, setbacks, and we'll see. But where's the piece about gentrification? And where's the piece that it's going to be compatible with local pre-existing homes? This section discusses unmet housing needs. That's not the goal of this document. For unmet housing needs. That's not my problem. My problem is staying in my home because my property taxes double every year. And those on a fixed income in my neighborhood in Dunbar, their voices are being completely chilled. The city staff and the developers are more concerned with capturing the next dollar bill for building than they are the actual people who are in fixed incomes in our community. Neighborhood context, Texas state, the state of Texas. Where's the part about Texas State University? Community feedback showed that gentrification across the area changes of new residents has historically underserved can lead to rising costs. Bingo. Well, it's about time we see it in the document. This plan acknowledges that the rapid increase of home values over the last 5 years, which impacts both renters and homeowners, has led to displacement. Bingo. Displacement is the forced or involved. Bingo. So then why do you have all this stuff in the rest of the document? Which actually creates this scenario. To protect Dunbar and Heritage residents and allow them to remain in the homes, the City Housing Action Plan and anti-displacement policy could provide. How about you just stop raising? See, this is what you do. You hire an equity officer when that money could go to the small businesses who are struggling. You create another program with city funding from taxpayers to do something that you know you need to do. Here's what you do, Stephanie. You cut your budget by 30%. You quit giving yourself a $10,000 raise because you're one of the highest paid people in this community, and you quit giving raises, and you stop your charity programs like funding all these parades that people don't this community has the majority of our students in SMISD are living on free lunches and free breakfasts. We don't need some new policy to tell us that. We need you to quit raising our property taxes and all this other stuff up here. This one little paragraph doesn't take care of it, because all that stuff above in the document presupposes you're going to be spending a lot of money creating infrastructure which will gentrify, and that's not acknowledged in here. The cause of the additional properties and the infrastructure which is causing the gentrification. Update and review. See, more red tape. You're just going to tire out the people who made this comment about 15 times. Evaluate the anti-displacement policy. This is ridiculous. This is called you hold your taxes at a reasonable rate and quit bringing in outside developers that are going to price people out of their homes. Housing, focus on existing network. I'm going to stop here and pick it up. So it looks like I'm on part 2. Thank you for watching my video.